Hey guys, welcome back to another great game of CEDH. I'm back from vacation, although with the airline losing my luggage and our hotel roof leaking, it now feels like I need a vacation from my vacation. But overall, I'm just glad to be back in the States and making this video. Also, have you heard the news? Your favorite CEDH YouTube channel has released some cool merch. And if you're interested in picking up some sweet new apparel, come check us out. Also, if you like what you see, consider joining our Patreon, as with your help, we can keep producing the videos you enjoy. And if you want to play with us, hop on our Discord. We have an ever-growing community that loves to talk MTG or whatever else strikes our fancy. And we would love to meet new people. Alright, block there, kill that. Oh, that is trample. Guess I'm just dead on board. Starting us off is Lutz, and his favorite new deck, Slicer. This is a mono-red Voltron stax list. Man, is that a pain to say. The deck aims for an early Slicer since his backside is just so cheap. And with the addition of haste, you can get an early hit in and really start the pain. It uses a unique combination of stax pieces to slow his opponents down and an equipment package to give you some much needed card advantage. As with Slicer, even if your opponent controls it, you control the equipment. So that handy Sword of Fire and Ice will deal 4 damage and draw you 2 cards. With Slicer now having the ability to attack 4 times each go around, the game will definitely end quickly if no one has an answer. Next up is Gavin, who has brought Rocco, Cabaret Caterer. This list takes advantage of having a tutor in the command zone to easily assemble very flexible lines. It can utilize a large number of different 1-card combos. And with the ability to find whatever you need, it's very resilient and is able to take multiple win attempts, even in the face of interaction. In the third spot, we have Enoch, piloting Tymna Thrasios. This is an aggressive list, looking to leverage Hermit Druid and Cephalid Breakfast, along with creature tutors to quickly piece together wins, while holding its own in later games with Thoracle Console, along with card advantage engines from the command zone. And bringing up the rear, we have JPEG on Marwyn the Nurturer. This is a proactive elf ball deck that plays very similar to Selvala Brostorm. With nearly 30 creatures, over which half are elves, Marwyn aims to assemble a storm-like win using pump spells and a critical mass of elves, with win conditions seen in most typical mono-green CEDH decks. But without further ado, let's get on to the gameplay. Loot starts off the game with a mountain. Gavin shocks in a Temple Garden and has a Lotus Petal. He follows it up with a Mox Diamond, discarding an Aganjo. Still not done, he plays a Chromox, this time imprinting a Wirewood Symbiote.
That's a turn 1.
That's a turn 1.5. But you know what's so sad? I'm probably gonna do nothing with this.
No
I pass. I pass.
No cards in hand. How many cards do you have left? 1?
2.
2.
Enoch plays and cracks a Polluted Delta for an Underground Sea, and is very disappointed at the turn order, as he casts a Mystic Remora. JPEG plays a Forest and passes. Lutz has another mountain and casts a Chromox. He gives a card to Enoch and imprints a Volcanic Fallout. Lutz then taps out to cast the backside of his commander, which unfortunately is just a vehicle, as he gives another card to Enoch. At least on the battlefield he is a creature, and Lutz sends him sideways at Enoch, ending his turn flipping his commander. Gavin gains Slicer and plays a Windswept Heath, and while he has a bunch of mana, he's lacking card draw and ends his turn just sending Slicer at JPEG for 6. Enoch gains Slicer and pays for his fish. He plays and cracks an Arid Mesa to go and fetch out a Savannah. He casts a Noble Hierarch and heads to combat. He sends Slicer at Gavin, and with the Exalted trigger, Gavin takes 8. And at his end step, JPEG casts a Worldly Tutor. He goes searching and ends up picking an Elvish Spirit Guide. JPEG draws his tutored card and gains Slicer. He has a Lotus Petal and gives a card to Enoch. The petal is then sacked and the guide exiled to help JPEG pay for his commander, Marwyn, with him ending his turn sending Slicer at Enoch. Lutz has a Blast on his land and taps 3 for a Tangle Wire. Enoch draws another card, but the wire resolves, with Lutz then sending Slicer at Enoch, who chumps with his Hierarch. And at his end step, Gavin cracks his fetch for a plateau. Gavin untaps and has to tap 4 things down due to the Tangle Wire. He then gains Slicer and plays a Cavern of Souls on his first main, naming Goblin. 2 mana then gets him a Dockside Extortionist, which grants him 4 treasures. And Gavin then ends his turn sending Slicer at JPEG, who doesn't block. Enoch untaps and pays for his fish, since the Tangle Wire would tap his mana anyways. He then gains Slicer and plays a Verdant Catacombs as land. He's not sure how he survives the upcoming turns, and decides to fetch out a tropical island. He exiles his own Elvish Spirit Guide and casts his commander Thrasios.
And then
You do have
I
Slicer.
will.
You have Slicer.
Oh, I do have Slicer, yeah. I can't Passios.
You
God
can't
damn
pass
it.
yes.
Enoch ends up sending Slicer at JPEG, who doesn't block. And at his end step, Lutz casts a Pyrokinesis, exiling a Blood Moon. He gives a card to Enoch and puts 2 damage on the Dockside and Marwyn. But Lutz isn't the only one with free spells, as JPEG puts an Invigorate on the stack, giving Enoch 3 life and a card draw. Although he's over his hand size limit and has to discard a Sylvan Library and a Hermit Druid.
Alright,
Come on
I
now.
will untap, do nothing, tap everything, and then draw. And then pass. Like, fuck.
And they then remember the Slicer, and JPEG sends him at Gavin. We get back to Lutz's turn as he removes a counter from his Tangle Wire and taps his permanents. He has a Plaza of Heroes as land and casts a Mana Vault. He then heads to combat and sends Slicer at Enoch, who takes the hit, and Lutz is done after that. Gavin untaps and taps 2 treasures and his cavern down. He then gains Slicer and draws return. He apparently drew the 1 red card he never wants to see, as for 5 casts a Kiki Jiki, and heads to combat. He sends Slicer at Enoch, who has to chump with his Thrasios. Enoch untaps and lets his fish go. He floats his mana so he doesn't have to tap anything to the Tangle Wire, and gains Slicer. And before his mana goes poof, flashes in an opposition agent. And oh boy, was that a lot to do before main phase 1. With Enoch then sending Slicer at Gavin for a total of 20 points of commander damage. JPEG untaps, taps his stuff, gets Slicer, and plays a forest. Luckily both players have blockers, and he decides to send the Slicer at Gavin, who chumps with his Kiki. Lutz removes a counter from his Tangle Wire and taps 2 things down. He has a Shinka, Blood-Soaked Keep as land, and plays a Spectre's Shroud. He equips it to his commander and heads to combat. He sends Slicer at Enoch, who chumps with his Oppo agent. Gavin taps his 2 remaining treasures and gains Slicer. He plays a forest and has to decide who lives to see another turn. Enoch does promise he can deal with the Slicer on his turn, and Gavin then sends Slicer at JPEG, who takes lethal commander damage and then reveals his amazing hand that was totally screwed by that Tangle Wire. Enoch decides to float his mana and then gains Slicer. And luckily he does in fact have an answer as he casts a March of Swirling Mist to phase him out, but loses his plan for this and exiles his Plaza of Heroes to give Slicer hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Enoch still has a floating black left and vamps. He goes searching to see if he can find an answer, and unfortunately doesn't run Forces of Vigor, as he heads to combat and sends Slicer at Gavin.
Damn, I was betrayed. I died.
Yeah, I know, dude. I tried.
It's okay.
Lutz untaps, and all he has to do is send Slicer back at Enoch to take him out and win him the game. Game review. Well, Slicer does it again. I love seeing an aggro deck in CDH. I love the idea of stacks, but it always seems to just drag the game out till someone finds a Psych Rift, and then all your hard work is erased. It's great to actually be able to pressure your opponents and not just give them the time they need to recover. Although Lutz definitely was running hot, as he had the right cards that he needed to keep his momentum going. Although talking about momentum, I thought Rocco was going to get there and combo off when he had all that mana turn 1. But I guess he was just lacking a way of refilling his hand. Although Enoch was the exact opposite issue. He drew a bunch of cards off his fish, but wasn't able to deploy his cards due to the Tangle Wire. As for JPEG, it was unfortunate that he had to use his Invigorate to keep his commander alive, or he would have had it with that stacked handicapped. But that's just how some games go. Thanks to all the players, and I'll see you guys later. Hey guys, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I just wanted to let you know that we have a TCG affiliate link, and if you ever see a card you want to try or are inspired to brew something new, use our link when purchasing and we'll receive a small portion of the sale. This is a great way to support the channel, and if you enjoyed the gameplay, please leave a like and subscribe, as it really helps us keep making videos. And remember, never give up, even if you're dead on board. I'll see you guys later.